Hey guys, FlyingSoul, still alive from Novosibirsk. This video will be one, I hope, of different videos about answering your questions. The last video was asking you about what does it mean for you, Siberia, and asking question about just to give you better context. So I will start with this one, one of the questions that I got from you. And I think it could be useful for many of you who decide to visit Russia or to live here. So the question was from Andrea Soto. I hope I read it in the correct way. The main reason for me is to learn the language. Can you talk about advice or your experience in learning languages? Okay, I can tell you a lot actually. So, concerning Russian languages, when I was still living in Italy, before I decided to move to Russia, I decided to apply for a Russian course, and it was for like 1 year, but it was not intensive course. It was just only one lesson per week, and I can tell you that it was not useful at all. Not useful at all. First of all, you have to know that Russian language is one of the most difficult languages in the world. And believe me, the alphabet is the easiest part, because you learn the alphabets quite easily. The problem is that to remember and to learn all the grammars, all the exceptions, all the way of saying, which gives you like, just lost your hope, and you want just to give up about that. So after my 1 year course, I actually remember only the alphabets. I could just few words, but I was not able to speak at all, or I didn't know Russian at all. Another thing that I learned when concerning learning languages, for example, English, I can tell you about English. Okay, English is definitely way more easy than Russian. But anyway, if you want to speak it fluently, it's not enough just to study it in your own country. I mean, if you don't speak English, of course. So I learned English at school, as many others do in most of the country of this world. But when I finished to learn it, when I finished school, I was not able to speak English at all. But as I told you in my presentation video of this channel, I'm a globetrotter. So I used to travel a lot in my life. I visited more than 40 countries, probably 42 if I'm not wrong. And most of them I traveled by myself alone, without any kind of agency. I just buy a ticket and then organize my trip on the way. I just decide where to go and I go. So I had to afford all the situation that occurs to me during my trips, because all the weight was on my shoulder, and the only way to communicate was to speak the most common language in the world, which is English. Want it or not, is English. So I became fluent just because I forced myself to speak it. They say that if you want to speak a language, you have to speak the language, and that's exactly what I did. So I became fluent in English only because of that. So I may have some problem in grammars, I'm pretty sure I have it. But still I can communicate with no problems in English with anybody. So this is the first rule that you have to know when you learn a language, whenever, not just Russian. So my suggestion is, if you want to learn Russian, you have to come to Russia to learn it. You can do it at your own. I mean, if you cannot afford it to live here for a while, of course you can do it in your own country. But still, you won't get the same result as learning it in Russia, because you need practice. So, when I decided to move to Russia, the first thing that I thought was, I have to learn the language. First, because English is not at all common language. I mean, it's not popular here in Russia. Everybody studied it at school, but the same as me in Italy, they don't have practice because they don't meet so often foreigners, and they don't use it for work, most of them. Maybe Moscow could be now a bit different, because Moscow is more globalized city, is way more international. But even Russians say that Moscow is not Russia, Russia is not Moscow. So I moved to Russia, and the first thing that I thought was I have to learn the language. So I applied for university for an intensive Russian course. The first 5 months were horrible because I couldn't speak at all Russian. Of course, you can meet people, you can find, it's not that difficult to find people who speak English or who speak Italian. You can do that. But if you are going to meet up with those people, you will definitely speak your language, or English. Because it's our mental trick. Our mind works this way, so it always look the easiest way to do what you need. Because it's like about save energy and save time. So you will never speak Russian if you do not make a very huge effort. So what I did is that after 5 months that I got enough vocabulary to speak a little bit Russian, it's like about 500 words, I decided to force myself to get in touch with Russian people that do not know English or Italian. In that way, I saw the result, how much I started to speak Russian. I didn't become fluently so easily, but I started to speak Russian just because of that. Because I have to force myself. There was no other way to communicate with those people. Of course, you have to find people that are inclined to wait for you to help you and very interested in communicate with you. But usually you find that. It's not so difficult. I mean, if you are an open person, you will definitely find. Of course, it depends also on your character, because if you're not like a sociable person, you get bored. People will get bored with you. But if you're like a sociable person, definitely will find people who are interested in communicate with you. Definitely. So that's the way I did. I forced myself to speak Russian with those people, and after a while, I found myself speaking Russian. So that's how I did. Now my level it's intermediate, so I do not know Russian so well. Definitely not as much as I know English. So that's the way I did. I don't have problem to talk in Russian with people. So I can communicate without no problems. I can say that I'm fluent, though I want to say that my Russian is still horrible compared to a native speaker, of course. But when I speak with them, they say, "Oh, you know Russian very well." And some of them say, even yesterday, for example, my homie Andrei said, "You speak Russian without accent." That for me, it's not. I do not believe him. It's not possible. But anyway, just because of that, you understand that you are able to speak it. So finally, if you want to speak the language, First of all, you have to be surrounded. You'll have to live in an environment when people speak the language that they want. Second, the best way is to study the language in the country where the language is spoken. So that's my suggestion. If you have any other question, of course, just write it in a comment. I'm trying to satisfy your request in the next videos. See you.